Hey everybody, in this video, let's go back to our data analytics activity in R. So if you recall from earlier, we had done a few things. We imported this Excel data into R, and then we also installed two different packages. One of them was summary tools. So this was the line of code for doing that. And then in order to import this Excel data, we also imported a separate, we installed a separate package. So those are two things right there that you should always remember when you're working in R. Number one, you want to ensure that you import your Excel data. And then number two, you want to ensure that you install the different packages that you would need to run statistical analysis. Now, the third step after you've installed the package is to actually, what's the word for it? Is to actually activate it. And there are two different ways to do it, but I'm just going to show you one that would be the easiest way to go about doing that. In this panel right here, click on Packages, and this will give you a list of the different packages available, and anything with a check mark means that it's already been activated. However, if it doesn't have a check mark, like summary tools, so it's in alphabetical order, like so, it doesn't have a check mark, so that means it's installed because we installed it, but it has not been activated. So it's just a matter of clicking on that. And then if you look here in our console, it's going to show you that it did all that. Okay, so now that we have that on there, we're ready to do a particular type of data analysis. So it's not on my list here, but recall from the previous video that before we do anything else, we want to take a look at our data. And one of those things we could do is look at the frequency distribution. And the frequency distribution, as its name suggests, would be just how many of each is within our data. And what I want to look at is type. So type is one of the columns that we have in our hotel data set. And while I didn't give you this information, it will be something that would be important to know, right? If you were working with data, like, okay, type what's one, what's two, and what's three. So when you're working with data, that's typically going to be information that you will need. Now, again, I didn't provide that for our activities. I was just going to tell you what the numbers meant. Number one, let me pull up my notes here so I don't tell you something incorrect. Number one would be just the sorry, I lost my place. Okay. One would be those who stayed alone in the hotel. Number two would be those who stayed as part of a couple. And then number three would be those who stayed with other family members. So we have the following research questions. So whenever we're analyzing data, it always starts with some kind of research question. So in this case, this is our research question. How many people in the hotel data set sample most recently stayed in a hotel alone, as part of a couple, or with other family members? Well, I already posted the answer on here, but in order for us to get these numbers, we have to run the statistical analysis. And in this type of categorical data, one of the ways in which we describe or we would show one of the things that we could do with categorical data is run a frequency distribution. That's what I was trying to say. So let's do that. in the console, this is what we want to type in. Frequency, or a FREQ, and then parentheses, just like before. When I typed in the opening parentheses, it automatically added the closing parentheses. And then inside the opening and closing parentheses, we want to indicate the data that we want to work with. So in this case, we just have hotel. And then follow that with a $sign. And then we want to put in the column that we want to work with. So in this case, it's type. That's the variable we want to work with. So once you have that typed in, click on return to execute that command. And you will see in the console something that looks like this. So on the left column right here, 1, 2, and 3, those correspond with the different categories. Number 1 is those who traveled alone. Number 2, those who were in a couple. And then number 3, traveled with other family members. And again, this kind of information would be something that you would have handy if you were going to be working with data, because you wouldn't necessarily know what 1, 2, and 3 were without this data dictionary. And then we also have one more item here, NA, which would be missing data. So now you can see that there's 27, 21, 19, and 1. So we won't worry about all these other numbers right now. This would be what we could report to our marketing manager. And so this research question, this would be our answer of the 76 people in the sample. And we know there are 76 because it tells us the total is 76. And then all these different numbers here. 27 stayed alone, 29 stayed as part of a couple, and 19 stayed with other family members during their most recent hotel visit. One person did not report this information as shown by NA. So that's an example of running a simple analysis to get the information that we could report out. In the next video, we'll do one more activity.